And welcome to Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres, episode 200. 236. Also, the 5th anniversary of these podcasts. So as you can see, 236 of them in, and I'm still not necessarily getting the right start. Oh, let's just make a start. So yes, hello and welcome to the 5th anniversary of these podcasts. Here we have my 5 candles in an apple because, I didn't have a cake and we're trying to be healthy. Make a wish. So yes, here we are, the 5th anniversary, 5 years we've been doing these podcasts. Who on earth would have believed that? Certainly I didn't when I started out. So yes, we'll come on to that in a moment. So what we're doing though is so it's a kind of a celebration is what we're doing today. So if you happen to be watching live here on YouTube, then leave me a comment, say hello, say where you are, say what the weather's doing, wish me a happy 5th anniversary, all the usual kind of things. And of course, don't forget to click like, subscribe, invite your friends, all the usual kind of stuff as well. So I can see we've got a couple of people in already, so let's just make a start on some comments. So Meg says hello everyone. Susan says hi from a gloriously sunny day in Kakubri. The bluebells are popping up. Happy 5th anniversary. Bluebells, yes, what a sign of spring. I generally tend to think of bluebells as May or certainly late April. To have them out this early is pretty good going. Not here in Castle Douglas yet. Kakubri, 9 miles away, but right next to the coast. Tends to be about a week or week and a half ahead in terms of the seasons, I think, to Castle Douglas. April says, greetings from an overcast Long Island, New York. And a happy 5th anniversary as well. John says, hello all, very wet here in the Midwest. Happy 5th anniversary to the show with Kim. Nick joins us from a sunny Bath. Marilyn says, hello from Colorado, and congrats, Kim. And April's talking about the crazy weather that's been all over the place. And Nadia says, hi everyone from Fife. So yes, welcome. And so what where to go from here? I'll tell you what, let's just do a quick Smug Points update, and then we'll get on to this whole 5th anniversary thing. So where the Smug Points are concerned, at the end of March, accumulated most Smug Points across the whole of March was Viji with 95 Smug Points, followed up by Robert from Texas with 80 Smug Points, and Marilyn with 75. In fact, Robert's joined us, says, howdy all from a cold Texas. Happy 5th anniversary, Kim. Thank you. So, what that meant was with Viji winning the accumulated Smug Points for March, she gets to set the challenge for April. So I'll be telling you all about that at the end of the podcast, so stick around for that. Although if you happen to be watching, if you're watching it on catch-up recording, you can always flick to the end, I suppose, if you're really that curious. It'll probably already be written into the menu items as well, so you can always just take a look and then come back to carry on watching. So that's the Smug Points point. So yes, here we are. We're at a point of... actually, one more thing just before we get onto that is a quick thing about the group, the Flickr Group. No, that one. Where are we? If I do that, yes, the Flickr Group somewhere around here. Flickr.com/groups/Upworker. Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres, which Nick has started a discussion in there, which I rather like, where he's asking about why did you start photography? So it's started a discussion group there. So don't forget the Flickr Group exists. Go in there, join in the discussion. I think it's quite an interesting one. I've left a wee comment about why I started photography. I think it's really quite an interesting one because pretty much everybody does have a bit of a tale to tell about why they took it up. Very few people actually, certainly on this podcast, I think, sort of, nobody was born with a camera in their hand as such. Most of us, I think, have tended to take it up a little bit later in life. So there's usually some bit of a tale behind that. So yeah, go and join in that discussion group. But the group is also there where you can leave images to get ask for feedback from the group, or to leave images that you want me to give feedback to in this podcast. It's also a place where I'll keep everybody updated with Smug Points, and you can put in suggestions, get discussions going like Nick has. So yeah, thanks to Nick for that. What else will go? Oh, Susan says, define cold, Robert. It's 14 degrees here and it's warm. Yes, well, this is true. It does feel cold. Well, it's kind of, if you're in the shade and you're caught in that, there's a bit of a bite in the wind. It does have to be said. It's rather nice when you're just sitting in the sunshine, but when the wind is going, it's, yeah, there's still an edge to it, I must admit. Where are we? Yes, so 5 years, 5 years. So when we began these, right back at the beginning, it was lockdown, it was pandemic. We were all, certainly here in this part of the world, unless you were considered sort of be one of the vital workers needed to be out and about. The rest of us were sort of locked in our houses. And to begin with, I thought, and it was going to be for 3 months. However, it turned out for us to be a lot longer than 3 months because vulnerable people in our household meant that, well, we had to wait until the vaccines came out before we felt we could start moving in the world again. The problem with that was, well, I mean, to begin with, we thought 3 months. Like I say, it turned out to be near a year and a half. And I thought initially what I would do is, well, okay, 3 months. Why don't I take this time to kind of centre myself, become calm, do all the mental health stuff? And I lasted about, probably about 10 minutes, to be honest, and started getting bored. So I thought I would start these podcasts. I thought, here I am. I've got all this knowledge about photography. I know I can't go out and do anything with this photography. People seem to be doing some podcasts to fill in a bit of time, so I thought I would start one up, and I thought I would start passing on knowledge. And as I did a kind of little scribble down onto a scrap of paper, back of an envelope, what I thought I could talk about, I figured I probably had about 3 months worth of podcasts to go that I could talk about, and made a start. And lo and behold, 5 years, 236 episodes later, I'm still going. But I must admit, I am only still going because of you who are watching this, you who turn up every week, you who leave comments, you who contribute to the podcast. I couldn't do this podcast if there wasn't the contributions. It's not a one-way thing. I am a social person. I am an interactive person. If it was just me sitting here talking with no interaction coming back, this wouldn't have lasted probably past week 2. So, everybody who turns up, everybody who leaves a comment, everybody who submits an image for the challenge, comes up with an idea for the challenge, asks me questions, you're all a real reason for why these podcasts are still going. So it's not just congratulations to me, it's congratulations to you, and thank you to you, because without you we wouldn't have this wonderful community. Where are we at? Oh, Robert's actually said it's only 5 degrees Celsius down in Texas. That's cold for Texas. Nick says, I thought it'd be a bit of fun to hear how we all started photography. Thanks, Skip. Yes, so do go and join in that one. I think it's a fun one to get involved with. So, where are we at then? So, yes, 5 years. But so what I did for the 5-year anniversary, I thought, well, what are we going to do? I want to celebrate the fact that we've made it 5 years. I want to celebrate the fact that it's you who contributed to this. So I wanted you to carry on contributing and tell me what it is you actually get out of these podcasts. Because there is a level whereby, yes, I come and do this each week, but I don't always know whether why anybody actually turns up. So it's quite nice if people actually sort of can give me some kind of feedback. And what's this? Hello, Uncle Kim. Love you lots. Little Miss Shaz. Oh, that's Charlotte. That's my niece, Charlotte. Hello, Charlotte. Thank you so much for turning up. That's lovely to hear from you. Charlotte lives 400 miles away from me, so we don't get to see each other very often. The occasional WhatsApp message and liking each other's posts on Facebook is about as close as we get for the last little while, I think. So, yeah, thanks for coming along, Shaz. So what was I talking about? So yes, so this idea then that so I put out a call last week for the idea of, could you send me an image that has maybe been inspired by the podcast, or maybe you could just tell me what it is that you get out of it. And I even, on Viji's suggestions, asked if anybody wanted to make up a little video saying anything. In fact, 2 people have. So stick around, you'll have a little bit of fun with that. Oh, what's Charlotte saying? Always tried to turn up. I miss you. It's good to hear your voice. Sorry for distracting. It's really good to hear you and to read you. Meg's saying hi to you as well, Charlotte. So the cousins. So what are we going to start with? I'm going to start with Marilyn, I think, because so Marilyn was one of the first people to respond. And she said, Kim, there's a lot that I've learned from your podcast. I've learned from my 2 years on your podcast. So Marilyn joined us, it was about 2 years ago or so. She says, I have expanded my way of seeing. I shoot in a variety of ways and viewpoints that I didn't see before. New subjects. I'm shooting subjects I never thought about, including learning about shooting people. Still a work in progress, she says. And all the technical and hints on Photoshop. I'm now shooting RAW and learning a lot about Photoshop. And you see, and this is just music to my ears. This is this idea that Marilyn is taking on board. She's photographing stuff she hasn't photographed before. She's thinking about ways of approaching photography. And that's exactly what I wanted out of these podcasts. We learn through doing, we learn through being challenged, we learn through asking questions. She goes on, regarding photos, attached are two that have been influenced by the photography, by the podcast. So this one here, still life. She says, definitely still a work in progress, but slowly improving thanks to you. Lighting remains an area of learning. So there we go. Still life is something that Marilyn has had a go at. And the other thing she said is Photoshop. And she said your last example on the last podcast. So now Marilyn's referring to actually last week's podcast, episode 235, where we did a version of this photo. Now, it wasn't actually this photo. The photo, it was a photo taken a few seconds before, because in the photo of last week this train is slightly further back down the track, but there were a whole bunch of people standing in front of it, and Marilyn had asked about getting feedback on how to get rid of the people. And so last week's podcast we talked a lot about several different ways you can remove objects in Photoshop and the strengths and weaknesses of each of them. And so she goes on, your help on the last podcast is just one of the examples. I learned the many ways of removal and used them on another train capture, one of which I wanted to crop in a different way. So this is great. So this then is Marilyn's one where she's gone in, and there was, if anybody remembers it, there was a telegraph pole, there was wires hanging across, and there was lots of people standing in front. And looking at this photo, you would have no idea of that. And that really has allowed her to kind of capture this very atmospheric shot without the distraction of seeing other people standing there with their cameras and their phones. So thanks very much for that, Marilyn. It's really good to get kind of it's been great watching your progress, and as you sort of you're a regular contributor for putting images in for critique and feedback, and I think that makes a big difference. Oh, Andy's joined us and says hello folks. I'm glad you could join us, Andy. Nick says if the podcast wasn't interesting, Kim, it would have failed, so thanks to you for making it so well. Thank you, I appreciate that. Susan says, gorgeous still life, Marilyn, and well done on the work on the train. Brilliant. And Charlotte says, lighting can be so important to change moods of a photo. I'm still learning. Yes, well, absolutely. Lighting is absolutely key to changing a mood. And yes, well, if you ever have any photos to send in, Charlotte, yeah, make sure you do. Right, so next on then, I'm going to go to April. And April sent in this photo and said, this is one of my favourite shots taken in the state of New Hampshire. Thank you, Kim, for letting me perceive different shots in all genres. And thanks for helping me to tell a story. Happy 5th anniversary. That's brilliant. Again, it's just this notion of learning to find the story within a photo. I think is absolutely at the core of photography. It's what separates out a snapshot, I think, from a slightly more absorbing photo. A snapshot is just a quick thing, tells you everything you need to know in a fraction of a second. Here's my lunch, don't need to worry about anything else. But another story, sort of a photo like this, we're seeing the old van, we're seeing the old barn, its texture, its age. And you kind of start to think, well, there's a story behind it. And the moment your brain stops, the moment your brain starts to go, oh, I wonder what was going on, you're more engaged with the photo. So Yeah, thanks for that one. But April didn't stop there. April was rather wonderful in the fact that she is one of two who decided to send in a video. If you remember, I asked for a video and April has sent in this one. So let me just...
Happy 5th anniversary, Kim. Thank you.
Pause that for a moment and rewind this and just... And I will just say that both videos that were sent in, I've added little captions to, and I did it basically because not because it's anything on anybody's accents or how well anybody can be understood. That's not the point. The point the point of putting the captions up is I know that quite a lot of people watch using the subtitles or captions either because of slight hard of hearing or background noises, wanting to make more sense of what's being said. Or quite often, if people are watching, certainly watching, if you're watching on your phone, you're maybe sitting on a train or a bus or whatever, you're not wanting to disturb anybody else, you just sort of watch it with subtitles. So there's kind of plenty of reasons why people... so I just added captions. So I just wanted to clear that up just in case any April or the other person thinks that I'm making any aspersions on their accent. I'm absolutely not. So where do we go? So let's just flip over to here. Here we have April, rather wonderfully, and I'm hoping that you should be able to get the sound if I just hit play here.
Happy 5th anniversary, Kim. Thank you every Sunday, teaching us all different skills of photography. We totally appreciate it. I know I do, and it's been a pleasure meeting all of you guys out there around the world. I wish you the best, and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, April. I can't tell you just how much of a smile that put on my face. April says, "Oh no, I look terrible. I've been sick." You don't look terrible. You look wonderful. I mean, it really warmed my heart that there is something about a video coming in and actually hearing somebody's voice, seeing the fact. I mean, the reality is, you guys sit here hearing me talk, watching me move around, watching my hands gesticulate, and all that every single week. I never see that with any of you. There's very, very few people who I know what they actually look like. There's a tiny handful here. Basically, in the comments at the moment, Meg and Susan are the only ones I've actually met face to face. And then there are a couple more that like Robert in Texas and Viji in India, who I have had video calls with. But I really tend to have no idea what anybody else looks like or sounds like. So to get the little videos through was absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much, April. That was really, really lovely. Where are we at? So, okay, so John says, still life's been a favourite subject. Nice one, April. Andy says, that's the great thing about photography. Every day is a school day. Yeah, it's true, yeah, always learning. Susan says, that tells a great story, April. And then Charlotte says, an amazing example showing a story and a mood in a photo is one of the things that is one you took of me and my brother up Sharkham. Oh, yeah, that's it's a lovely photo. I'm pleased with that one. That photo says everything with no words. Charlotte says, "Oh, that's a lovely photo." April. Susan says, "Wow, so nicely put. So nice to put a face to your name, April. Well done." Excellent. Right. Okay. So next up, then, John from Ohio sent in this photo and said, "This is a photo I took in the fall of 2024 on a trip to Pennsylvania to shoot covered bridges. I remember you saying a few times to step back and see the whole scene. I saw this as soon as I turned the corner. I like the leading lines as well. I've gotten a lot of good tips over the years. Congrats on the anniversary." Well, thanks a lot, John. I appreciate that. And it's nice to see these photos where you feel that, okay, you've thought about this, you've taken into consideration stuff we've talked about plenty of times. So you're doing the covered bridge, we can see the covered bridge, but we've got the road leading up to it, and it's through the autumn woods. And it is giving us a sense of not just the bridge, but of the place. And I think there is, you're right, there's this notion that sometimes when we're taking photos, there's always a different angles we can take, or not angles, distances we can take photos. There's the idea of what we're taking a photo of, we can isolate it. So here's the bridge with very little else in it. Or we can even go in closer and we can do details or even abstracts and goes, here's a part of the bridge. Can you guess what it is? Or we can step back and we can give it a context and say, here's a bridge within an environment, which is what you've done here. And I think whichever one of these approaches we decide to take with whatever it is we're taking, whatever it is we're photographing, I think the simple thing of mentally making a note of and deciding, well, do I want to do it far out, medium, close in, and what are the benefits? And maybe even try all of them. But yeah, lovely shot this, and yes, thanks for kind of talking about that notion of it's a kind of context photo as well. April says, thank you all. I videoed myself and did not know what I was going to say beforehand. Well, that's brilliant to be able to just, yeah, I mean, a bit like these, totally nothing scripted. I think it's always, I find video to a script almost impossible because I can't remember. I'm terrible at trying to remember chunks of words, so I'm better off just speaking, and even if it comes out slightly clumsy and it's not as fluent as if it was written, it's still better than me being stilted and reading very flatly off a piece of paper. All right, Charlotte's got to go to work. Thanks for taking the time to stick your head round. Hope you have a good day at work, Charlotte. April says, very pretty, love covered bridges. Susan says, love the composition, John, and those lovely autumn colours. And Andy says, nice leading lines. Cool, right, okay, so let's move on then. So next up, we're going to go to Becca. And Becca sent in this one, where she said, I'm sending this image of blossom on a tree that was blown down in a storm, with my red boots in the shot. I'd been following the podcast for a while at first, but this was the first challenge that I had entered that I had not already taken. It was good to go out and look around me with the intention of finding a scene that spoke to me. It's lovely to have a friendly group of people to check in with every so often and chat about photography and see what others have been inspired to. And that's really lovely too. So the double kind of thing here as well. So what's really lovely about this one from Becca is that it's the intentional photograph. You know, every month we have the challenge, and quite often, I think most people, most of the time, you maybe don't have time to go out and create a fresh photo for the challenge. So it's a case of raid the archives. What have I already got that fits the bill? But when you get the chance, I think when you get the chance to actually go out and say, well, okay, that's an interesting topic. What can I create to fit that topic now? And it sort of inspires you to go out and actually try and find something. I think there's something really special. To go out with intent with your photography is quite a different thing. It's the difference between the hunter and the scavenger as such. And most of us are scavengers, I mean, all the time. I'm out every day for my walk. I have my phone with me. I might notice a bit of blossom, I might notice an interesting piece of moss on a wall, or a cow in the field which I like the markings on, or whatever it is, and I go, oh, that looks interesting. I whip out my phone, take a quick photo. That's that kind of scavenger thing. You find something, you stumble across something that's already there. But to go out with intent, that's the hunter. I'm going out to see specifically what I can find, what to consume, what to create. And it's a different mindset. And I think if we're trying to train our eye in photography and to train our mindset in photography, I think to go out on a hunt every now and again rather than just scavenging is a really good thing. So yeah, thanks a lot for that, Becca. And it's great that you kind of got to the point where you felt you could do that. But also the other thing is, I think to echo that point of the community side of it, to have a place where you can turn up where, with this podcast is built around people who are like-minded in that sense. Now, everybody here, I'm sure, has entirely different worlds they live in, whether it's religious, political, geographical, we know, the weather, vastly different in different places. But whatever our differences, what we all have in common is a love of photography, a love of playing around with the camera to try and capture the world in a way that allows us to see the world in a way that we wouldn't normally. And that commonality is what then creates the community, our community of widely different backgrounds and incomes and geography and whatever else we want to put in there. The rest of those things are less important beyond actually a kind of curiosity. We get, interest in other people's ways of life. But what unites us is our love of using camera. So I'm delighted you've kind of discovered us and joined in with us with that, Becca. Susan says, great idea to have the boots in the image, Becca. They echo the pinks in the blossom. And April says, I remember this photo. I like the boots on the ground. Right. Where have we got to? So next up then, I'm going to go to Susan in Kakubria. Susan says, because I'm quite indecisive, I have attached 2 images for consideration. They're both taken using my favourite still life format, black background with fairly simple styling. So let's bring up Susan's first picture, where we've got this like artist's hand thing holding some lovely set of coloured bands here, and the black background really kind of allows the colour to just really pop against it. And Susan goes on to say, unfortunately, I've been unable to take any photographs since the 3rd of January because of my broken shoulder. I do hope that heals soon. And, I can't, it must be, just the idea of not being able to go out and take the photos must be incredibly frustrating for you. Have you learned how to go one-handed with your phone yet? I think I would be probably be kind of one-handed, a pen in my mouth or something. Just that notion of frustration. But hopefully it's on. Oh well, you do say it is slowly improving, so hopefully I'll be out there again soon. I hope it's not too long for you, Susan. This photo is called "I Think I'll Choose Yellow." Presumably, good. There you go, picking out the yellow band. Is a favourite and actually did well in the recent Camera Club competition, judged by an outside judge. The subject was colours, and I think I followed the remit. Your podcast certainly helped in many ways, lighting, filling the frame almost, and a strong diagonal from the hand. Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. Yes, knowing that how close in do you get. The use of diagonals, I think, is also a good, strong one. So it's nice to know that, what we're saying in these podcasts, eventually some of it starts to seep through and then gets played out in your photography. And if you're then getting a good response from the judge, even better. The next one, Susan said, where are we? Pressing the wrong. Is these macaroons. To which she says, macaroons also did well in the same competition. This one again had elements I learned from your podcast, cropping out the dead space to give a more panoramic format. Arranging the macaroons with a diagonal shape and giving added interest with the broken one on the right hand side. I gave careful thought to the lighting. And yeah, that's lovely. I like the diagonal. I like that kind of almost sort of cinematic crop there. You're right. I think the cutting out of dead space, if that had been a squarer or kind of more general landscape kind of format, there would have been a lot of space. Like the little bit of kind of soft reflection of the colour just kind of coming into the surface here. But the broken bit, absolutely, the broken bit really makes a difference, I think. When you've got them all kind of lined up, it just it creates a story. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all lined up, and then we've got one broken into pieces. So we can see the texture in the middle, but I think it creates much more of a story as well. That they're not just there as something to look at, and something where you're about to take a bite out of at the same time. So yes, thank you for sending that, Susan. And I'm really glad that these tips and tricks and stuff that we've been talking about have been finding their way into your photography. April says, very artistic and creative photo. John says, great still life, Susan. Susan says, I am trying with a phone, but it's still a bit shaky. Yeah, if you've only got one hand, strong light nice days like this at the moment, get outside, try and get some of the cherry blossom, I think is probably although the other problem is, of course, actually with the cherry blossom is, whilst it's been lovely and sunny here, there's been this constant wind. And I took some nice shots of some cherry blossom yesterday, but in order to be able to stop them wobbling about all over the place, I had to use my other hand to hold the branch still, so I could then try and operate it with one hand. April says, can I have one please? Nice shot. Nick says, nice photo. And Susan says, thanks all. Well, the natural one to follow this is Nadia, because Nadia's shot then is this one. She went on to say, I was inspired to try this picture by Susan's vase photos. Susan's vase photo she sent in a while back. And so I think this is brilliant. So, Susan's kind of got she says, like a favourite go-to style with her still life, which is the idea of the black background and quite often a single light, but maybe a single light with a bit of a reflector somewhere. But it's that notion of creating something that sort of stands out in its own right. You're not worrying in a still life about what's going on in the background. It's about isolating the subject and making sure that it pops and your attention gets drawn to it. And I love this idea that Nadia has then seen what somebody else has been doing and thought, oh, great, I'll have a go at doing that, and has then created her own version with her own interpretation of it as well. And again, it's a beautiful photo of this. That's a lovely vase, that really absolute minimalist perfection, stillness, the white vase there, and then that glorious colour of the flower just kind of popping out against it, all against the white against the black background. So it's a lovely shot, but I think that again warms my heart, the idea that it's not just what you're learning from me, it's what you're learning from each other. And it's why it becomes so important to take part in the challenges and to put your photos in for critique and to get the feedback, because very often you'll see it's not just my feedback, it's other people's feedback, and it's not just the photos to make Kim go nice photo. It's that photo can trigger an idea in somebody else in the community. So, and that's really what makes it a community, is that it's bigger than any one of us. Like I said, I might be the guy in the seat here in front of the webcam, in front of the microphone gesticulating away, but it's the crossover part of it, the idea that you can inspire each other, which I think is particularly wonderful. And certainly with the challenges, I see that kind of idea happen all the time. I mean, a number of times I've been inspired by the challenges as well. People take a photo and I think, oh, that has an interesting idea I hadn't considered, or I'm out somewhere and I see something which slightly reminds me of something I've seen that, and so I have a go at doing my version of it. So that was lovely to see, Nadia. So thank you for sending that one in. April says, I've done that plenty of times, Kim, holding it in place. Yeah, holding the thing that's blowing around in the wind. April says, very tranquil, still life, pretty. As Susan says, oh, wow, Nadia, I'm honoured. Great shot. So yeah, I'm roughly about halfway through, I think. So here's a point, I suppose, to just kind of do the usual bit, which is if you find these podcasts useful, interesting, entertaining even, and would like to support them, then buymeacoffee.com/Kim Ayres is one of the ways you can do it. And of course, don't forget that we do have the groups. We've got the Flickr group and the Facebook group where you can be sticking images, asking questions, asking for feedback, throwing ideas into the ring, exploring things, getting chat going. Because again, to talk about this notion of it being a community, it's really quite nice when there's that cross-fertilisation and we can kind of talk to each other. So use the groups and the like Flickr and what have you to kind of get conversations going. I think Flickr's probably a lot easier than Facebook, to be honest, because Flickr allows for multiple discussion threads at the same time. And at a glance, if you go to the overview page or the discussion page, you can see there's a bit when the last entry was put in, so you can also see if somebody's put in something new as well. So right, okay. Where do we go next? I think we're going to Nurije. And where are we? So Nurije, basically, she had a lot of fun with this one. Said this one's my favourite. It comes from the Fill the Frame. Oh, hang on a sec. I realised I'm on the wrong one. There we go. That's what I was wanting to do. So this one from Nurije, and every time I keep hitting the wrong thing here. So my text box keeps leaping back up to the top. Where was I? Yes, there she is. This one is my favourite. It comes from the Fill the Frame podcast. I took this in my neighbour's garden. I just love the two-tone colours. Always wanted to have a photo of a dahlia. Dahlia. Yes, I got picked up on this last time by my wife because it's the way it's spelled, Dahlia. I would go dahlia, but it's a dahlia. Apologies. Maybe I've got no idea how the subtitles come up underneath with me. So yes, anyway, the flower, fill the frame. And I think that's fun then, this idea that because the challenge was to fill the frame and it gave Nurije the excuse to go, well, I don't know whether she went into her neighbour's garden or leant over the fence or quite what, but saw the dahlia, decided, yes, I'm going to get the photo and I'm going to do it with this particular one, this flower. So yeah, I think again it's that fun notion that that one, that's it. I think it's that fun notion of there's a challenge and it gives you the excuse to go out and try things perhaps you haven't done before, or maybe make you feel slightly more kind of adventurous, perhaps, to have a go at doing something. April says, very pretty, love nature macros. Nick says, very nice photo, lovely colours. Andy says, lovely shot. Susan says, stunning Nurije, love the colours, and you've certainly filled the frame. And John says, lovely shot of the flower. Excellent. Right, where are we going to next? So, it keeps disappearing back up to the top of the... Viji! Yes, Viji! So, Viji... okay, one sec, where are we going? So, oh no, not Viji. Come back from that. Sandra. It's Sandra next. Where? Oh no, what's happened here? No, I'll tell you what, let's just go Viji. We'll go Viji and then I'll come back to Sandra. So, where are we? Hold on, close that. Here we go. Yes, this is just such a beautiful photo from Viji. I love this one. I remember this was done a couple of years back. And Viji said, these 5 years I've taken many photographs, but this was the first shot where I really put to use the techniques I learned from you. And then I was elated when I received the below note from you. And what Viji's done is she's quoted back to me what I quoted to her about this photo, because I mean I do remember this photo. I just remember looking at it and it takes my breath away. It's just so beautiful, moody, beautifully taken. And apparently what I'd written to her was, I said, I really like the photos, and the one of the leaf is astonishingly beautiful. I would be delighted to have taken that photo. And it's true, had I taken that one, that would be part of my portfolio, and I would be putting it into these various online contests, I think. The softness and subtleness of the gradations of tones and focus, the sharpness of the raindrops in the foreground, the diagonals in the background counteracting the curve in the foreground, all combine to create a beautiful photo, while the low-key aspect of it adds a gentle melancholy. Please allow yourself to feel particularly pleased with that one. Smiley face. And Viji said, nothing more to add. Thank you, Kim. So again, that's a lovely idea there, that Viji's taken all these ideas that I was giving her, managed to put them into the photo, and then feels really happy with the feedback that I've given her. Where are we going? Susan says, stunning Nurije. Love. Oh yeah, I've done that. Filled the frame. Where are we? Oh, April says, very pretty nature shot. I love the water drops. Susan says, beautifully done, Viji. Simple and subtle. That gorgeous curve. I would love to have taken that shot. Now, Viji, rather wonderfully as well, also
I could hardly believe it's 5.
is the other one who sent me a video. And so for all of you who are kind of curious about Viji and in Chennai, because the idea of sending in a video was Viji's idea in the first place. So I'm glad she actually decided to take part in that one. So here's Viji, and like I say, once again, I've done the captions just for anybody who happens to be sort of watching it on low level audio and stuff. So where are we? Let me hit play.
Kim, happy 5th anniversary. I could hardly believe it's 5 years. I still remember the day I received your email saying that you have started a podcast series, Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres. Right from the 3rd episode, I had been a regular. Whatever I have learned in photography, I owe to you, Kim. You had been a great mentor. And I wish you many more years to come. And I just wanted to mention one thing here. The critique section is where actually it helped me to learn the techniques of photography, especially from an expert from you, be it the techniques, be it the editing process, everything. I learned it through critique section. So that's the reason why almost every week I post at least one photograph for the critique section. And please keep up the good work. And I wish you many more years to come. And I want to say hi to all our community. I wish to see you all in person, but that is not going to be possible, I guess. But sometime soon, probably we'll all have a video call, a video chat, if Kim can arrange for that. And one podcast, we'll make it as a group chat. That will be a wonderful thing. And wishing us all again a very happy 5th anniversary. And Kim, I don't have any words to explain your greatness. I'm so very happy to be part of this community. Thank you for everything. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Oh, how wonderful. Thank you so much, Viji. That is just truly lovely. Truly lovely. I think, that idea of having a group kind of chat, something like a kind of group Zoom call or something like that. I don't know. If anybody's interested in that, let me know. Maybe we could do that one podcast instead. I don't know whether we then record it and put it out as a recorded one. I'm not entirely sure how that works, or even if there's ways. I've got a funny feeling there might even be ways of doing a kind of video interaction through YouTube. I might look into it, but only if there's a demand for it. Never entirely sure. Some people are happy to kind of join in a chat. Some people always kind of prefer to sort of sit and watch, maybe type a couple of words. And then there's some people who just love to watch, but will lurk as such, will never actually want to join in directly. So we'll need to see that, but you can let me know about that. I think the other great thing about this is, I think Viji's point about critique is really important. The critique section, I think, really is where we learn the most. And I don't do as much critique as I would like, because whenever I put in a critique, an open call for critique, I very rarely get more than 1 or 2 people send me an image in. And it's usually Viji and Robert, that's to be said for the most part. But Viji and Robert are also the ones that have, if you like, really grown with their photography the most, because they do. The reason I do the critique feedback section is because that's how I grew my photography. Back when I started out 17, 18 years ago, and I was I was taking photos, but it was really difficult to know whether they were any good. I put them on Facebook and my friends would tell me they were great, but they were just being nice, and I didn't know. How do I get proper feedback from somebody who really understands what they're talking about? And I joined this particular photography site that had a really good feedback section where other people gave a lot of feedback. Occasionally, though, it was quite brutal. And there were certain people on there who might have been very knowledgeable, but they were quite tactless or on power trips. And that made it difficult. But getting direct feedback on my photos absolutely accelerated my learning like nothing else ever has when it comes to my photography. We can think we have ideas, but we've all got blind spots. We've all got blind spots in our idea of what we're seeing. We take the photo, so we have a framework, a mental framework of how we're seeing that photo. And it's very, very, very difficult to see our photo objectively. So to get somebody else's feedback on it is a really powerful thing. Now, you can listen to somebody else's feedback and then decide that actually they've missed the point, and you don't. But even that in itself is still a good thing, because it allows you to feel more solid in your conviction of what you were trying to do. So feedback, even if you decide not to take it on board, is still an amazingly powerful thing, as long as it's feedback from somebody who is knowledgeable. And that's why, that really is kind of the core of the podcast, what I wanted to do with that. And I tend to feel that those of you who really kind of leapt the most with your photography over the past few years, by and large, tend to be the ones who have most often put something in for critique and feedback too. Now, I've got to be careful here. I'm not wanting to kind of sound moany or point the finger at anybody who doesn't regularly send stuff in for podcasts. I know it doesn't suit everybody. It takes a certain degree. There's an insecurity. I get it. There's an insecurity if you're going to place your picture in front of other people, especially if you're going to put it up online, you know, where anybody else in the world could potentially tune in and see it. And to put something up online to say this one isn't working particularly well kind of goes against all the instincts. We're always in a position whereby we have to try and put on our best face. We have to try and put on our best self, the best version of ourselves that we display to the world, because we feel vulnerable if we show our vulnerabilities. And yet, if we can get past our ego and say, actually, I'm prepared to accept the idea that I'm not an absolute expert, that this isn't the best photo that was ever taken, but I could really do with a little bit of help to try and work out where my blind spots are, that's when we grow. That's really when we grow. And it really is something I feel very, very passionate about. And it's why I want to be able to help you grow in that way. And so thank you, Viji. Viji's just wonderful. Viji's been kind of an absolute kind of cornerstone of these podcasts, as she says, from episode 3 onwards, constantly sending in images, constantly giving, joining in the challenges, coming up with ideas, an absolute kind of a heart of these podcasts. And your video is just wonderful. Thank you so much for sending that one in. Where have we got? Oh yes, so Susan says, beautifully done, Viji, simple and subtle, that gorgeous curve, I would love to have taken that shot. And then Viji's actually joined us, so it was rather good timing. Says, good evening, friends. Susan says, lovely to see you, Viji, well done on a wonderful video. Andy says, great to see you, Viji. April says, nice, Viji, nice to see you. Nick also says, nice one, Viji. Viji says, thank you all, wishing to see each and every one of you. Robert says, I demand it. John says, nice video, Viji. Viji says, sorry to join late, Dad a bit unwell. I hope you're managing to, well, sorry to hear that, Viji, basically. I mean, I hope everything's kind of under control at the moment. I know it's not an easy time for you just now. Where are we? April says, sorry, Viji, I did a video last minute. He showed it already. Yeah, when we get to the end of the video, you'll have to scroll back and find April's, because April also sent in a video. John says, a Zoom meeting is how we do group meetings here. April says, yes, John. And Viji also says, yes, Zoom is good. And April says, people like the challenges. Some challenges have a lot of photos. Yeah, for sure. The challenges tend to get the best response, generally speaking. It's why I do one every month. Please the crowd. But also, it's not just that. The other thing is with the challenges is that if you take it as a challenge and you decide to go out and try and find something to fit the challenge, I think that's where we grow as well. And to go back to this idea that's been cropping up throughout the podcast, which is we inspire other people, because everybody who takes part in the challenges comes at it from a different angle, from a different light, and then we go, oh right, I hadn't thought about that, maybe I could try doing something like that myself. So it's not just what you do for yourself, it's what you do for everybody else that becomes important by taking part in the challenges. But it's also exactly the same thing with the feedback as well, which is when you put your image in for feedback, it's not just what you learn, it helps everybody else, because everybody else then goes, right, that's technique, or that's how you get around that problem. And I will say it helps me. I've learned so much by helping other people. The number of times I've suddenly been sort of sitting on my computer editing something and gone, Oh, right, actually, the problem, my stuck point here is exactly what I was helping Sandra out with at that point there, or whatever. So, yeah. It's that ability to help others within the group, I think, is an important part of contributing to. Where we go. Viji says, I will watch again and watch April's video. Right, so next up then, oh yes, okay, so yes, having mentioned Sandra, let's go back to, here we go. So Sandra said, hi Kim, the first thing that came to my mind was a samurai helmet I took a few years ago, which is this one. I photographed using a side light rather than just natural light and realised the impact this could have on the final picture. This is important as learning about how to use light to create a mood in a photo is a complex and difficult subject to learn, and your ability to explain this topic using different photos, different photos you've taken has been excellent. My knowledge has improved greatly by watching the podcast. That's great, Sandra, and it's lovely to hear that. And in fact, actually, I mean, this point of learning light, how light affects a mood, exactly what my niece Charlotte was saying just a little bit earlier in the podcast. Light is incredibly important when it comes to mood. And the difference between backlight and side light and front light, I think once we start to get an understanding of that, then our photography shifts up a level. And I see it at the moment. I'm been running, well, I've run one already. I'm running another one next Saturday, doing a couple of phone photography workshops for people. And the last one I did a little introduction to it in a couple of workshops time. I'm going to be doing a little section specifically on light, because I do tend to think, well, when we're out with our phones or we're out with a camera, we tend to take photos in whatever the available light is. But if we can see, if we know that something could look different from a side light than a backlight, then we can kind of move around and hunt out something interesting. And again, for anybody who's on Facebook or on Instagram or on Blue Sky for that matter, the last thing I put up yesterday was a set of 3 photos of just cherry blossom that's come out. But what I'm taken with my phone and holding onto the branch as I said, because it was wobbling around in the wind too much. But I took it sort of kind of with the light hitting kind of just over my shoulder. Then I turned and had the light coming from the side, and then I went round the back and had the sun coming from behind through it. And you can see the 3 different photos of the blossom, just depending where I've changed the angle of the light compared to where the camera is, and the difference that makes. So yes, I could with something like the samurai helmet, the side light, what that's allowing it to do is really bring out the landscape, the textures here of the metal and the materials in a way that a light coming from straight on just wouldn't do. And a light from behind, a backlight, would give you a nice silhouette. But in this case, what you're really trying to explore is the texture. You know, you want to be able to sort of know that, you know what that would feel like if you were to run your hand over it. And, you know, so yes, that understanding of light, I think, is absolutely crucial. So thanks very much for sending that one in, Sandra. What would we say? Viji says it was kind of to add the subtitles. My accent can be a bit tough to understand. Well, it's not what. So you weren't listening there, Viji. You know, I'd like to say, well, or maybe I was explaining this back with April's one. I put the subtitles up because a lot of people I know watch the videos with either the subtitles anyway or the sound because the sound is turned down quite low because they're trying to listen to other things, or they're not wanting to disturb other people, or basically all of us have got slight hearing impediments, or there's other noises going on. And so often it feels like practically everything I watch on television now I watch with the subtitles on. So it just felt a bit easier. Anybody who sent, I decided already beforehand, anybody who sent in a little video, I was just going to add the captions, make it a little bit easier all round. But lovely to hear the voices. Absolutely lovely to hear the voices. Where are we? So, April says hers was done quick, had not been feeling well. I've done it for you and Kim. I did not want to disappoint. Well, hugely appreciated, April. Viji says, wow, what a shot. And thank you to April. April says, nice shot. Susan says, the light you've used here is great, Sandra. It glows beautifully. Right, okay. Next on then to Janet. And Now, Janet sent this one and said, I've been trying to come up with a submission for the anniversary. I find it difficult to express exactly how the podcast has helped my photography. I think it has been a lot of new information, suggestions, and also reminders of techniques and principles that I already know. And I think there's a good point in that, which is there's a lot of stuff that we already know, and then we kind of forget that we know. And then sometimes somebody comes along with something and you go, right, yeah, of course. And it brings it back into the memory. And so we thought we had a fair base of knowledge, but like anything, the less we use something, the more it kind of sort of disappears into the background. And sometimes it requires a little jolt or a memory to kind of get things going again. She goes on, I've also had new ideas to try different from some of the challenges, which I've tried to varying degrees of success. Sometimes too late for the challenge, though. I am submitting the attached image as I was trying to shoot a lot of abstract images for your challenge while on vacation in British Columbia and Yukon back in September. I would have shot a lot of them anyway, but I was definitely more focused on looking for abstracts than I would have been without the challenge. And again, that's good to know. That's that notion that because you know there's a challenge coming up, that perhaps you start looking in a slightly different way and start hunting out again. And she goes on, in fact, I ended up with a collection of the abstract images in an album on Flickr as well. The attached image is one of those attempts, but one where I made so many attempts that I didn't really get through sorting them until I got home. Thanks and congratulations for the 5th anniversary of the podcast. And yeah, it's a fun abstract, this as well. Obviously, look, I mean, it's a broken piece of wood and all the fibres kind of in there as well. Fairly close in, shallow depth of field. So yeah, it really does become quite abstract. It almost reminds me of one of those kind of super electron microscope versions where they're saying, and this is the leg of a bee or something. And it just looks sort of so totally alien and different. It's got that kind of feel to it. And the black and white, actually, I mean, black and white is always a way of abstracting just an extra level again, because we remove the colour and that takes away an extra level of instant being able to recognise what something is. If that was wood coloured, we'd know instantly it was wood. Because it isn't, it takes us an extra however many seconds or milliseconds to start working out what it is. But yeah, lovely shot there, Janet, and thank you for that. John says, prize-winning shot of that helmet. April says, nice black and white abstract. Viji says, beautiful texture, black and white is a good idea. And Susan says, everything right here, Janet, very effective. Right, now the last one I'm going to come on to is Andy. Amazing shot, and I really absolutely love what Andy wrote. After that, I'll tell you, I'm going to award a couple of extra smug points on this, so stick around for that, and then I'll tell you what else is coming up for the rest of the podcast. But what I have to do first of all is show you Andy's photo. And it's quite an amazing photo, this. And in fact, actually, I'll tell you what, because my head is blocking part of the way, let me just reduce that over there, close that, bring that back up here. No, do that. I just want to kind of make sure that I can bring up on the screen like that without my head being in the way. Let's try and grab the corner there. I'll just bring that over there. There we go. So now you can see Andy's photo without me just chipping off the corner of it. And let me come on to what... So we've got the jockeys here, standing in the doorway, about to come out. Andy's caught this moment. And it's such an atmospheric shot. It's such a moment where you just really feel like you just... There's an anticipation. There's, you know, the look on the faces, the expressions, a determination. This one here standing very casually, leaning against the door. This person slightly distracted by something else. But on top of that, I also love the kind of frame within a frame, picture within a, you know, we can see the room behind as well through the glass. And there is such a moment, a sense of that instant there, which actually Andy can be very good at with... it sort of reminds us a bit of kind of Martin Parr as well. It's certain street photographers where there's a moment which isn't what you call conventional. It's not conventionally posed, staged photography. It's not like the photography where I will kind of set a scene and I will kind of get things balanced and I will be looking to sort of create something using the traditions of the old masters or whatever to create a particular look. This has a different kind of feel. It's a different kind of photography. This is the one where you feel, it feels so real. You really feel like you are there in that moment. You've turned, you've glanced, you've blinked. This is what you've seen. And then a moment later it will be gone. But it's also this other totally other world. I mean, unless you are a jockey, I mean, certainly these, horse racing is not part of my world as well. So it just becomes this sort of sense of, oh yeah, my God, there's this entire other world, this parallel universe that exists, of which I only have the faintest inkling of an idea, but it's completely realized in this. So it's a very powerful photo. But what I love here was what Andy says. Andy says this image is my favourite recent image. It's the culmination of many things I've learned from this wonderful group. The episode in filmic photography especially, is I think this image has a really strong story narrative, and it does. It absolutely does. The main thing that I've taken from this group is a result of the confidence gained from the kind and thoughtful constructive critiques and the support of the group. The only previous feedback I had was from the Camera Club judges. That's an interesting one, because a lot of people join camera clubs with the idea that they're going to get feedback. But the feedback you get in a camera club, and I've got to be careful here because not all camera clubs are the same and not all camera club judges are the same. But there can be a certain kind of narrative that takes hold where everything is about getting technical details right, to the point whereby story gets lost. And you can have two pictures and one is a really powerful story, but maybe a bit of highlight is blown or there's something lost in the shadows, and it gets marked down, even though it's a much more engaging photo. Whereas something which is maybe more mediocre, less adventurous, can get scored highly because technically it works. And I think that can be problematic. So Andy goes on. So the only previous feedback I had was from Camera Club judges, and this can be at best less than helpful, at worst brutal and demotivating. And that's sad. To get feedback which is demotivating, I think, means you're getting the wrong kind of feedback. And yeah, that it saddens me. It saddens me because it's against absolutely everything I believe in with photography. He says, I would invest time and emotion into an image only to get a lower score than a robin on a stick. I read that. Oh my God, did I laugh. Robin on a stick. And that almost kind of sums up to me the problematic, because again, I remember when I started out in photography and there were particular photography groups. I'd never really belonged to a camera club, but there were a couple of photography sites that I went to and I started posting my images, and I was doing these moody black and white faces with a lot of landscape and texture, and I was trying so hard to create something moody, interesting and amazing, and all the time the same kind of sunset with long exposure water photos won all the time. These or robin on a stick, it's a classic robin on a fence post kind of idea. These kind of things always won, even though to my mind maybe the first time you see them you go, yeah, that's brilliant, it's nicely done. But the 52nd one you see, the 130th one you see, the 4,000th one you see, you're bored stupid and you just wish there was a little bit more originality in the world. So yes, robin on a stick. And he goes on, getting meaningful feedback in a supportive creative environment has been invaluable. I now trust my instincts with an image and present to the wider photographic world with more conviction and less fear. Absolutely, that warms my heart, Andy. That's the idea that you're getting more the courage of your convictions to say, no, you believe in your photos because you've been able to get a different kind of feedback and then go out there and present it. Andy goes on, I'm still in a camera club, so I tested this particular photo here in a competition. It scored 15 out of 20. The judge comments, too much white in the image. The left side of the image is redundant. and it was beaten again by a robin on a stick. And that's what I mean. It's a kind of camera club judgment is sort of missing a whole chunk of the point of this. He says, I also submitted it to the Amateur Photographer of the Year, where it came third overall in the open section. I mean, to get third place in the Amateur Photographer of the Year, that's astonishing, Andy. I mean, congratulations and well done. And it shows that you've got a different kind of judge at that. And it's always one of these problems to a certain extent. And I have done podcasts on this before, and I will come back and do it again, where I've talked about doing well in competitions, by and large, starts on understanding who's judging. So to a certain extent, if you're putting in a picture to the camera club and you want to score highly, you put in more likely to do a robin on a stick. Something like this, brilliant for Amateur Photographer of the Year. Something like Lens Culture online, lensculture.com. Something like this would do particularly well with as well. Possibly even there's a couple of other, the Taylor Wessing Portrait Awards. Something like that is maybe worth thinking about as well. It also says, I submitted it to a photo magazine open call for entries, and it was one of the top 100 selected out of 8,000, including in their first print anthology. So, I mean, to be in the top 100 out of 8,000, that's sort of like the top 1.2% or something like that. That's a brilliant, brilliant result. So it says, enough said. Thanks for everything and happy anniversary. So that's brilliant. Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate you sending that one in, and for the story, and for letting us know what you're up against. But that notion that you've got what you've got from this podcast is a sense of confidence to be able to actually go, no, this is my style, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm going to work with. That's so important, and it is everything that I could hope for as somebody who runs these podcasts. That's ideally what I would want from everybody. I would want that for everybody, and to think that you've got some of that from the podcast is super heartwarming to me. Thank you. So where do we go? Comments here. Where are we? Yes. So April says, very good documentary photo. It is a great storytelling photo. Susan says, another of your amazing images, Andy. Love the faces on the jockeys and the colours are fabulous. Viji says, this photograph captured extremely well, expressions especially, and the stats class. Andy says, thanks folks. Robert says, it's a fantastic shot, Andy. Nick says, very nice photos. It's fantastic how we all learn from the feedback and each other. April says, Andy, your shots are very good, professional looking, don't listen to that nonsense. Susan says, birds on a stick and leaping squirrels always win. Oh God, yeah, don't get me started about squirrels. Viji says, Andy, I truly wish this shot, I truly wish I shot this photo. Susan says, 15 out of 20, sack the judge. Nick says, I was going to join a photo group. I went along for the first time and never went back. People started talking about gear and bagging up themselves, or bigging up themselves, I think that is. Yes, I've got stories about, not here, not online. Robert says, well done, Andy, on your third place. That is exciting. April says, your work is so professional. Congrats. Nick says, well done, Andy, on your third place. And Andy is saying, thanks, everyone. And also, exactly that, Kim. Thanks. Yes, Nick says, bigging up, not bagging up. Okay, brilliant. So this has been lovely. This has been really lovely. Everybody sending in your images. So a few extra smug points here. So along with the usual 5 points for everybody who's leaving a comment and saying something in the chat, I just want to include my niece Charlotte from earlier. I'm going to give an extra 10 smug points to everybody who sent in a photo, because it's just really gratefully appreciated. And while I'm not going to give... I'm not choosing a best, because that's not what this is about. Definitely Viji and April are going to get a bonus extra 20 smug points on top for sending in a video, because that was really, truly lovely. And I'm also going to give an extra 10 smug points to Nick for starting the discussion topic in Flickr, which for anybody who came in a little bit late, Nick has started a discussion topic in the Flickr group about what got you into photography, and I'm really curious as well, so please go back into the Flickr group and leave your comments about it, and let's have a nice kind of discussion going on there. So thank you then to absolutely everybody for all the years of support, of still turning up, for everybody today who's sent in the images, sent in the videos, left comments, but for everybody who's contributed to these podcasts. And we've been going for 5 years. Like I said, I thought 3 months at best when I started. But I can only continue these podcasts with your help. So keep sending the images, keep sending the images to the challenges, keep sending the images for feedback and critique, because that really is where you and everybody else learns the most. And invite your friends along. Try and find other people that you think would help to grow this community. There's always a turnover. We know that there are particular people who were regulars for quite a while, and then life changes and they're no longer regular. So people drop out. So we're always in need of new people to join. And let's grow this community of ours. So anybody you can think of that you think might be interested, who would grow their photography by being along, drag them along. So quick then, coming up in the next couple of weeks. So yes, Viji. Then Viji won the Smug Points challenge last month and has decided to set the challenge of picture within a picture, or frame within a frame is another version of it. And it's essentially this idea of where you've got a photo, and in a way, yes, we're just saying with Andy in there, that with Andy's picture, that it's actually, there's 3 different frames within the one picture. So what I want to do is I want to explore that idea, how you can, it's not just about the picture, it's the pictures within the picture as well. And sometimes whether that's reflections in mirrors, or whether it's openings in walls or gaps or other aspects, I'm going to explore that next week. And then I'm going to set a challenge on that idea, the picture within the picture, which will then be in, 3 weeks time, I suppose, to have the challenge. Again, some of you will be able to go and raise your archives, but what I'm hoping is that next week I will talk through it and with a bit of luck inspire you to go out and try and find and create something specifically for the challenge. I give you 2 weeks so that you have time to try and find something. In between that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I showed you 1 or 2 photos of these before already in relation to something else, but a couple of drag queens in Dumfries that I did a photo shoot with. We did 2 different scenes, one up on top of a kind of balcony overlooking the town, another one inside a pub. And so I'm going to show you the rest of the photos, and I'm going to talk you through the motivations, the ideas, the bits and pieces that were going on with that one. So that's in 2 weeks' time, is the Dumfries Drag Queens. So stick around for that as well. But it also, what I will say is, for that one and for the picture within a picture next week, I will have a couple of spots for critique and feedback if you wish. If there's anybody who wants to send me something, I'm happy to I won't have many, like I say, 1 or 2 slots maybe. But there are spaces there. So if you've got a picture you want to send in, please do. Right, I think that's basically about it. So let's... Viji says Andy's picture would be perfect for that challenge. Susan says, I've loved seeing all the images today. Well done all. So yes, that's us. Thank you ever so much. And that's 5 years. Will we make a 6th? Will we make it to 10? We're going to make it to 10. I'm going to have to find an income for this. Anyway, thank you ever so much to everybody for taking part, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.